Well, welcome. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Owl Bob, and I am your Sensei Owl Bob, and I'm here to give you some entertainment. This show is strictly for entertainment's sake. Wherever you are on the earth, find yourself a nice comfy chair, get yourself a libation, and put the cat out and the kids to bed. This is a grown-up show for grown-ups. And what makes a grown-up? Someone who can think for themselves, not age, meaning you can be 5 years old and a grown-up, as long as you are thinking for yourself. Yeah? Oops, I don't want that ringtone up there. Ringtone down. So, let's see. Put this little thing over there. So here I am in my favorite library. And again, I spent the last 2 weeks in doctor's offices, and I've got a pretty good, I'm doing pretty good. As my endocrinologist says, first, you're the healthiest dead guy I know. But it's all good. I'm in good shape, and I'm wondering how you're doing. So, have any of you guys read Philip K. Dick? He's definitely a man out of time, that guy. And I truly enjoy his books. I enjoy how his books, written in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, have translated into the 21st century. And we are in a time and space where what is reality, And when I was a youngster, I spent most of my time visualizing technology, right? Reading interesting things by Morey and Tesla and all of the other electrical geniuses, Wilhelm Reich and other folks. And then, Mary Shelley and and then I started looking into the ancient scribes, back to the Sumerian and Egyptian and Mesopotamian and Babylonian and Hebrew and Greek and Roman and Holy Roman Empire and Spain and England and Denmark and all the kings. And hey, Twitchy, how you doing? So, Twitch, do you ever read any of Philip K. Dick's books? What do you think? Which are your favorite? Because he really kind of, you read his books, you can see how, they're stories, but it's like he came from the future. He knew what was going to happen. He saw it, and a lot of other people have done the same. And that's the interesting thing. And right now, I'm asleep, and I'm talking to you, I'm doing a Edgar Casey thing, remote viewing. I'm in state. But, so, these videos are being put up more or less Yeah, Walter Russell's books are good. Yeah. So was, who's the guy who did the book about the 19th century guy who ended up in Mars, and they made a movie about it? John Connor Goes to Mars or something like that. All the planets in our solar system are artificial. They were moved here. They were manufactured someplace and moved here, right? If you go into state and go into your Akashic record, you can see these things. That's where people, remote view in their imaginary mirror. They go into their Akashic record. They see everything. You can remember everything. The son, what books of Walter Russell do you like? What of his philosophies would you like to elaborate on? When you read a book, do you read it all the way through and then read it again and again and again? I don't know how many times I've read Moby Dick, and every time I do, I get something new out of it. Moby Dick, there are a number of what one would call the modern novel. Newborn Water, interesting. Okay, tell us a little bit about that book. I mean, is it have the dynamic of what water is? When water is in a water spout, it creates energy, it creates an abundance, and it creates a time vortex. When you spin a wheel, right? A metal wheel, a gyroscope, and you spin it up to 1200 RPM. It just, without a electromagnetic force put to it, just a wheel spinning, you will find it defies gravity. There's a guy, what was his name? He was an English engineer, physicist. Let's see. I wrote this down in my composition book. There we are. Oh, let's see. Eric Lithwate, Lithwate, go on YouTube, and he was the guy who invented transverse electromagnetic levitation, or grav-lev. And he did that in the 40s and 50s. And he also gyro levitation, axis motivation. And another interesting thing is the Devil's Bible, or the Codex Grandis, the largest book of the Middle Ages. The other thing that's interesting is mind control through when you get the agents of the people, when you get everyone believing in something, they think it's real, even whether it's real or not. Like everyone believed, was made to believe that, the Taliban and the Al-Qaeda took down the World Trade Center. No, sorry. And what is the final reality? Philip K. Dick spoke Counterclock World. That's another one. Some variable is what is changed. We do things over and over again until some variable changes, and then a new reality pops up. And, at least 2 or 3 months ago, I noticed through my observation of trends that a window of opportunity was opening up. And it was forced by a number of these kind of motifs of reality, of collective consciousness created by forced events. Like we didn't want to be in World War One, and so they had to sink that boat and blame it on the Germans. So we went into World War One. We didn't want to, go, the Spanish-American War. They sunk another boat in the Cuban harbor. The Spanish had, our Navy was steam-powered and made out of metal, and the Spanish still had sail wooden boats. They didn't want to fight us, but we wanted their land. We wanted the Pacific that they had. We wanted the Philippines. We wanted Hawaii. We wanted, chunks of Central and South America. And you have to realize, go to Jordan Maxwell. He's a theologian, philosopher, political scientist of today. And he's getting up there in age. He's probably 10 years older than me, give or take. But I used to know him back in the day of the 80s conferences. And he is quite, he understands admiralty law. He understands that, the New World Order they talk about, already started, back with the Holy Roman Empire. And that we're all slaves, and that birth certificate shows that we're owned. Birth, admiralty law. It's when a boat comes into a harbor and is put into a berth. That's what happened to us. We're in this harbor of this illusionary world, and we're birthed here, and we're owned. And you drive around the country and you say, oh, this is the incorporated village. Oh, this is the incorporated county. This is the incorporated state. And whenever you go into a court, there's two American flags. One, that's the red, white, and blue with the stars, and then there's the red, white, and blue with the stars with a gold fringe around it. That one is the Admiralty Law. And this window of opportunity, there's a great opportunity for humanity to step up to its conscious free will. There's also the great opportunity of the hidden hand, powers that shouldn't be, the sock puppets, to rebrand and, keep on going with their long game. That is a long game. They've been going on with this long game for a good 16,000 years, Our bodies are avatars, and they aren't who we are, Okay, let's see what you guys are saying. Yep. How you doing, bud? Summon escape. Well, it's not escaping. We need to run not away, but towards our conscious free will, not away from it. Not into, the soma of the illusion of the matrix, Boo. Summon and escape. if I'm pronouncing that right. So newborn water, interesting. What is that? Primary water. What's that? Water from below, underground. Okay, yes. Did you know that, the guy who did Omar Gaddafi at Libya, right? He did exactly that, primary water. He drilled a deep, deep, deep mine into the primary water table, like, thousands of feet down. Water doesn't come from our atmosphere. It comes from the center of the earth. And he dug that up and he brought it up to his people. And he gave them the most healthiest water on the planet. And he turned his deserts into gardens of paradise. He gave everyone in his country a house and free health care and free education. And he made his country a land, not a socialist land, but a land of abundance, because the socialists are just, that is state capitalism. What we have, the United States, make America great again. When was it ever great? What we have is a corporate fascist state. And it's been that way since 1492, when Chris wrote down in his little, him and his men were the dregs. The Spanish Queen didn't give him the best of everything, gave him the worst. And if he had really good sailors and good boats, he could have made it from Spain to, the Caribbean in less than, but he was out there for months. So they all had scurvy and were next to death. The Indians of Haiti came out in their big boats, got him, took him back, nursed him back into health, and he basically said in his log, these are beautiful people. They're tall, they're strong, they're bright, they're generous. They'll make great slaves. Give me 10 men with muskets and I will own these people. And there were about 3 million. And he came back 2 years later with 1,000 soldiers, shock troops, with muskets and cannon. And he killed all those people and started a slave state. And that's Chris Columbus, right? And that's what we did, all the different Europeans of imperial power did to North, South, Central America, right? So when was ever America great? When there was freedom. They talk about democracy. We were a republic, and we were turned into a corporate state, especially after the Civil War. That's what it was all about. It wasn't about slavery. It's about a means of production. And we are those slaves, Anyway, and we've been bought off cheap. The Romans had bread in the circus. We got fast food and big screen TVs, And the way to deal with this is to, in every day and every way, take the piece of the earth and make it stronger, right? That's what it's about. So one of the things I've noticed in my lovely Shangri-La library, today was the first day that we now have policemen in our library with guns and tasers and handcuffs and spray, We now have policemen. And if he walks by here, I'm going to have him sit down and explain to me why he's here, why we need policemen, armed policemen. And he looks like and I don't want to disparage any cows, but he looks like a cow with a uniform and a gun. I mean, he's gigantic. Probably weighs 200 pounds, Anyway, so it's a beautiful day out there. And that's really what we have to focus on, the beautiful day, right? Yep, primary water. Yep, and they make it, it's a corporate holiday, They're celebrating the corporate fascist mentality. That's what it is. Looks like a cow with a gun. Yep. But see, we actually have the power because when you wield love's co-creation, you can do anything. Right? And the illusion of the material world, that's all it is. All these books here, it's just an illusion, you know. Just because it's in a book doesn't mean it's real. The big case need to stand front of camera. What does that mean, Coffee? You guys speak in code sometimes. The big in case need stand front camera. Okay. I'm just kind of laid out here because my legs hurt. So I'm sitting in the library with my legs up. And my feet aren't touching any furniture, you know. Anyway. So, the four of you, what are you doing in your neck of the woods? Where are you located? I know Buddy's out there in New Zealand somewhere. And Coffee, where are you from? And Somni U Mes Cape. I don't know what that means. But where are you from? Coffee's from Nevada. Your classes. Twitch, you're always on the bop, and that's what I love about you. Getting the job done. Keep it up. That's my friend Twitchy. Keep it up. And you know, guys, you can always go back. I'm pushing up to 500 of these shows on our channel here, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. And you know, and you can always get a hold of me at the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. And right now, for another week, I have all of $3 in my pocket. And I'm kind of eating out of dumpsters. Eating out of dumpsters used to be great. I used to have restaurants that I ran out of dumpsters. I had a couple restaurants in New York City. The Blue Door, the Hobbit Hole, the Ear Inn, Jake's, the Raccoon Lounge. Raccoon Lounge was this kind of, it was an owned building, but it was kind of abandoned. And it was on it was down below Chambers Street, moving towards Radio Row. You know, down near below City Hall, kind of between City Hall and Wall Street. And it's that whole neck of the woods is beautiful because there are all these teeny little streets, a couple blocks long, going all different directions. It was old New York, and these buildings, they were 5 and 6 stories high. And the people who owned them, they mostly dead, and they were like, the things were held in escrow by banks and nothing. So you could break into them, and as long as you didn't hurt them too much, you could do a lot of stuff there. And if no one noticed it really, no one really cared. So this place, the Raccoon Lounge, was owned by somebody, but it was generations had died, and the person, it was in an estate, and the guy lived in Florida. He didn't even know what he owned, and no one bothered me and I ran a restaurant in the place. And why I called it, and it had been a workers kind of restaurant. It was a pretty big space. It was about 2,500 square foot dining room, a big bar, and a nice kitchen. and upstairs where I lived in a basement, you know, you could store stuff, and it had an alley that they used to roll the beer, you know, barrels in, and anyway, kind of started this thing called the Raccoon Lounge, and we called it that because when we broke in there, there were hundreds of raccoons in there. I mean, who knew that there were raccoons down near Wall Street? Anyway, so as soon as you came in, you know, and I turned on the lights and we cranked up things, they kind of went back into the underground. And there was a big cave in the basement. And I think it had something to do back in the day of speakeasies. I think this had been a speakeasy. Anyway, so we started a restaurant nightclub, and it was pretty successful. And the artist, it's kind of down below Tribeca, Triangle below Canal Street. And this was in the 75, 76, so no, 70, 74, 75. And had gotten back from New Mexico. And I had a place on Duane Street, Duane and Hudson, right off of Duane Park. And it was Nikola Tesla's old laboratory. It was called Mohawk Electric. It was what really beautiful building, triangle building, right between Varick and Hudson and Duane. And anyway, but we found this place and we turned it into a restaurant because there was no place to eat downtown late at night. So we did that, and then we kind of turned into a kind of club. First a fun place to hang out and pool. We dragged all kinds of things off the street, pool tables, et cetera, et cetera. And more people came in and really had a good time. And we were doing everything. We don't need no stinking badges, so we did everything under the radar. And then it was this nexus. Enough people moved in and were living down there, and this was the only place to really have a good time. And it was starting to jump, and the powers that shouldn't be started to say, "What's going on here?" But we made no muss, no fuss, and whenever the powers, the sock puppets would come in, we'd give them a little taste of our profit. It's called graft. And then what happened? More famous people moved down into Tribeca, like Robert De Niro, where he bought a building on Duane Street, I think at Duane Park, and John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, and Joni Mitchell, and a whole bunch of, people who were quite successful, and they had the money, and these buildings were nothing, cheap. And then Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi started coming. I mean, they all kind of hung out at this place because, I was turning out pretty good food, and I was getting everything out of it because the egg and butter and cheese district was right there in Duane Park. And they used to throw out a ton of stuff. These gigantic wheels of cheese with mold on it, but you just cut the mold off and half the cheese was still great. Anyway, and wine, there was a winery, there was a thing, and they had barrels of wine that kind of got moldy on the outside, and they just kind of, we'd roll them down the street. And like I said, there was this alley that had this steep kind of, not too steep, but a thing you could roll barrels into the basement. Anyway, we were doing pretty good. And that was also an area on the west side. That's where all the boats used to dock. And so there were all these companies that serviced, this is what I learned about Admiralty law, serviced the shipping industry. Now, by this time, they were getting into container ships, and most of the gigantic industrialized shipping was coming into, New Jersey and further up the Hudson. But there were still places they brought boats in down in the Tribeca area along the Hudson. Anyway, so it was right at that window of opportunity, this crossover from the old world to the new world. And everything got blurred. And as long as you didn't really step on anyone's toes and you're facilitating something that the powers that shouldn't be said, we'll let this go as long as it serves us. We did that. So anyway, and that's how we created all kinds of amazing things because we first did that. I mean, first Soho was our first little thing, and that turned into gold. And we didn't have the money to buy the buildings, but other people did. And I showed my father this one building for $35,000, and it was over on Worcester Street. Oh, it's a terrible place. Okay. Anyway, and 10 years later, that building sold for, $16 million, right? When I lived in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, I showed this old Jewish guy used to fix his machines. He just wanted $200,000 to go to Florida. And he owned a whole block on Broadway, right? And in Williamsburg, right? And my dad could have bought that whole block for 200 grand, right? But, and he got in a fist fight with this old Jewish guy. It was unbelievable. I just kind of, and that whole block sold for $300 million. I mean, building by building, 20 years later. I mean, I just kept being in the right place at the right time, but having no money. And it was kind of the universe showing me, okay, you're living like a millionaire, but you're not being a millionaire. And if you were, you would end up like Donald Trump, because there were a lot of people I worked for, a lot of people I went to school with, who came from millionaire families, and there wasn't a single one that were happy, right? So money does not make you happy. Again, it's not a bad thing, It's a love of money. In the Bible, it doesn't say money is a bad thing. It's the love of money. And the only love you can have is the love for love's co-creation. See it clearly. Yep. Well, the whole thing about, I was talking to my sister about, so I got, it took me 2 weeks and filling out 40 documents to get maybe a pair of orthopedic shoes. Why my legs are hurting, except my orthopedic shoes are worn out, so my legs are twisting in ways that the orthopedic shoes aren't taken care of. Now, I might have to go to Walmart's, because I saw the shoes that they're making for me on sale at Walmart for $19. And I looked at Dr. Scholl's, inserts, right? And the orthopedic shoes are going to cost $700. And to get, all the different people to take care of me to, get them so I don't have to pay for $700, I had to fill out 40 forms. Took me 2 weeks. It was a good thing because I went to see all my doctors. They had all signed it, blah, 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 blah. And it's still mushing through the paperwork world. And I'll have to keep calling this one lady maybe, every other day. So did you get this person to get it? You put in that form already? Meaning do her job for her. And now I'm aware of the bureaucracy. I know how to dance through it. But the average person, I'm in the waiting room, nope, they don't get it, And the only way they get any servicing is that they basically, the only kind of social safety net that's left, Bill Clinton obliterated the social safety net. You have to come out of jail. You have to have zero, nothing. It's like me. I own nothing. I have nothing. Zero, right? And that's a real experience of freedom when you have nothing. I mean, it's a little like today. I went and had breakfast at IHOP, and now I won't be able to do that for a couple of weeks till I get my next Social Security check. But I had to go out in the car and dig around in my car to get the $13 to buy my omelet and coffee and pancakes. And, they could have thrown me, oh, I don't have the money. Oh, you go to jail. But the universe always, so I had but I'm not going to be eating anything, being warm or putting too much gas in my car, at least for the next week and a half. Right? And luckily, I've done all my having to go to, this and that, But, I will get maybe $400, for my Social Security check, and I have a bunch of bills to pay coming up, or my life will change irreparably. And I'm down about $400. I have the electric bill and this bill and that bill and insurance and a car, blah 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 blah. And my little budget kind of got disrupted, and and so anyone wants to send me any money through Western Union, please do so. Send it to ADMARTINO in Roanoke, Virginia, and then send me the tracking number at the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail, and that works very nice. You can do it from the comfort of your home with your credit card, and it gets right to me. Or if you want to mail me some, a lot of you put it in the mail to my P.O. Box 1165, Vinton, Virginia, VINTON, Virginia 24179. And I have to say, Christmas, my birthday, Valentine's Day, everyone sent me nice little cards and presents and boxes full of, tasty little treats and bottles of wine. And somebody sent me this really magical stuff called Carbon 60 that really has done a great deal for my gums. I mean, that's how I'm staying alive, is through the generosity of you guys, right? And this would be a good time to get generous, because pretty much you got nothing for the, I got some expenses coming up in the next month and don't have the cash. And it's getting colder. I mean, tonight it's going to be 14 degrees. Ooh, baby, that's going to be cold where I'm sleeping. Anyway, and that's why I have interesting stories, is because my whole life has been like this. And, I don't think about, oh, what am I going to do? Oh, I'm so worried. How am I going to pay my bills? No. I live like a millionaire without being one, I live in abundance, and without worrying about it, right? And, I don't go, I got a job, can't pay the bills. No, my job is to serve you guys, right? To be your sensei Alba. My job is to, in every day and every way, go through my life and bring the peace to the earth and make it stronger through love's co-creation. And that's what I've been doing for close to 70 years, from birth till today. I'm pretty much, this is the path I take. Yeah, I'm a bit of a moron, and I can stumble into, 10 years of working in the corporate world for the desperate lawyers, and living in a jacuzzi of yummy chocolate mousse, putting on 280 pounds. That's why I ended up dead in a plate of spaghetti. But here I am, still alive, and the good thing about having to go through all the shit I had to go through with the doctors the last 2 weeks is that they looked at they lifted up the hood and looked at me, and my endocrinologist keeps saying the same stupid joke. Oh, you're the healthiest dead guy I know. But like my blood pressure is 90 over 58. My there's this thing when you have diabetes, your blood sugar, right? You take it every day, but the really important one is that the one they take maybe every 3 months, and it's like the average of those times. And anything over 7.2 is not good. It's in the yellow. Anything above 7.8, then it starts to get in the orange. Mine was 6.2, which is really good, meaning anything between 6 and 7 is really good. So I was at 6.2, right? And I had lost 28 pounds since September. Between September and now, I've lost 28 pounds, right? The way you should, a pound here and a pound there, not stressing out your body. And there are other hormonal things, there's a thing called a stress test. My heart, is really great. My lungs are really great. I'm in great shape for a dead guy. That's, and, I can, I'm not walking around with metal braces on my legs or a walker. And, you know, anyway, so I was talking to my older sister today, and she's a really sweet person. And she has like 6 kids, and they all have 6 kids, and she's got a zoo of a life, right? And but she is, a person who, I constantly tell her stuff about what I tell you about, and she don't want to hear about it, right? Anyway, so I told her about my, just what I said. Yeah, I've been having to do this and that just to get a pair of shoes. And she goes, well, you're lucky you're going to get them, instead of saying, yeah, and then I said, well, I used to live in Europe where, universities and housing, food, transportation, and healthcare were free. And she goes, well, you should have stayed there. And then I said, well, I really kind of came back, when Dad said, you have to come back and take care of us. I took care of my parents for 28 years. And luckily, I had nothing to do with my family for the first 30 years of my life. The next 28, I took care of my parents. But I did it on why I wanted to do it, and that was that I had nothing, I wanted to, when my parents, my parents were in their 70s, and I thought they were going to die relatively soon, but I took too good care of them. They lived another 28 years. Anyway, my mom, basically, I'm a lot like her. I'm German and, Italian. My dad's 100% Italian. My mom's half Irish, half German. So I'm the Irish-German one. Blue eyes, blonde hair. I look like the Steinbecks. I'm a carbon copy of my great aunt's twin brother. Anyway, so I was kind of going, it's all in genetics. That I have mom's teeth. I have this, that, mom had diabetes, she had neuropathy, she had this, she had that. And Mary was going, you can't blame her. And I said, Mary, I wasn't blaming her, just saying that I can relate because I took care of her for 28 years. I took her to all those doctors, and I should have known better. I should have taken care of myself instead of jumping into that swimming pool of moose, living a hedonist life for 10 years. I should have, stayed on my, aesthetic path of a sensei. But I have to, duly admit, I enjoyed every minute of that hedonistic life, and I survived it, And as my teacher would always say, everything is as it should be, meaning whatever you're going through is what you're going to be going through. And I look at folks who, if they only made like my host, JB, it's, a thing that really, you always go out. How do you go out? What do you do? And I basically go out because if I stayed at the school, JB would just sit in front of me saying the same 40 words over and over and over again, right? And it hurts my heart because he's my friend, and I have watched him for 2.5 years torment himself, and it's not, anyone else. It's like whatever torment or situations I've ever gotten myself in, they're all of my own making. But I have 3 rules. Good morning. Hey there, fish. The 3 rules. Doctor, do no harm. Don't get involved unless you can bring forth a positive outcome and, get the innocents out of the way and protect them. And the 3rd is to don't get involved unless you can learn something. Those have pretty been my motivational motifs. rather than ulterior motives. You look at the United States, and everything we've ever done has been for ulterior motives, and not for the positive outcome. Oh yeah, we do everything for everybody else's. No, no, we do it because we have some kind of economic, social agenda, and pretty much every nation state kind of does that. Anyway, so what's going on in your lives, gang? Fish, what are you up to? Eden, what are you up to? Oh, good. Whatever, guys. Maybe see you later. Oh, like I said, I'm tiring. Doing the late night one, not so much. Middle of the day one, And again, I have almost 500 of these shows, and I would love it if you guys would go back and look at them, because one of the reasons why this tires me out is having some remembrance of your dreams. And they are slightly vague and don't make sense. So, Fish, let me give you a little advice. If you got a smartphone and it has a record button, when you wake up and that dream is still, before your feet hit the floor, you grab your phone, hit record, and you go, wow, I just dreamed about blah, 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 blah. And now it's on the magic box. You can go back and listen to it over and over again, pause it, go back, pause it, go back, hear it a few times. And as you do that, you take notes. And when we were in school, we took notes not to remember, but when you listen to something and you write it down, you understand it. Freud called it a gestalt, or lightning understanding. That's what gestalt therapy is. You talk about it, you write it down, boom, boom. Oh, wow. That's why I do that. That's what that's about. Oh, that's the metaphor, right? Then you start thinking like Joseph Campbell, You start thinking, like Ouspensky and Gurdjieff, Anyway. Whatever progress means. Progress means moving forward, step by step, stepping up to your conscious free will. And that's what Buddha and Jesus and Vishnu and all the masters were. They were awake. The story, Buddha standing by the side of the road, traveler sees him, goes, wow, are you God? Buddha goes, no. Oh man, what are you? And Buddha says, I'm awake. So, progress is waking up. That's what progress is. Whatever progress means, that's what it means. Doesn't mean getting a fancier car or, no. Sorry, or a faster computer, or no. Because all these little trappings of the material world are just addictions, right? I think that's why I had to get really sick and lose everything, because it was the universe's quickest way of having me drop my addictions on materialism. Now, I can still, I went to IHOP today and had a nice omelet and pancakes, and I only ate half of it and brought the other half, so I'll have breakfast tomorrow. And I could probably string it out for 2 days. ADHD. Well, ADHD, all those kind of things are just... If you go look at JB's ex's YouTube, she basically does, I won't say anything other than go look at it and see the interaction she and her family have. Her father, she took, just the way to see her is go to JB's channel and go look at a bunch of, his things going on about his family and what's going on, and And him, I won't make any comment. I'll let you be the judge. Go to his channel, right, and look at it. And all I'll say is that JB is just like in the Bible. Who's JB? Job. And that's JB, right? And and what was Job? Why was Job in the beginning of the Bible? They've changed that, King James changed that. And a lot of Bibles don't even have Job anymore. But the reason what Job was, and so is JB, the canary in the social coal mine. It's like the reference to humanity. Job is, forget about Adam, it's Job. Adam was the village idiot, basically, and Eve was the mayor of Eden. That's why it was named after her, So if you go to JB's channel, there's that's where you kind of probably found me, where I have, I have my own show on JB's channel, the old crone and Jimi Hendrix and David Bowie, and I've told those stories on my own channel, and they are a lot more richer and deeper. Whatever I do on my own channel is way more shamanic than what I do on JB's channel. But that's where I first, found YouTube, and YouTube found me. Most of my stories on JB's channel have gone over 90,000 views, Here, I get 50, 60 views from you guys. It'd be nice to have a few more. Because if I could get over, more than 1,000 part of the cadre, I could probably start to make a little cash off this. Because a lot of my algorithms, or not algorithms, my database or my time in or my storytelling, those, if I had more, I hate using the word subscriber, but, push that button, subscribe, and hit the thumbs up a little more. I mean, I'm really just hanging on here by a thread, but it's okay, because I'm living like a millionaire with nothing, I'm letting the cornucopia of the universe take care of me. And it can be somewhat stressful, especially when I have no idea where I'm going to sleep tonight, I am, my existence is as existential as you can get. But that's what makes me a good griot. That's what makes me a good Sensei Al Bob, But I'm still a mud puppet, I'm still like the birds. Yep. Well, Fish, if you go, like I said, if you go to JB's channel, John Birmingham, he's got her connected to him. And so you can go take a look at that. And it would be a good place to start with John. And because he is the canary in the social coal mine. He is Job. He is unbelievably biblical. And he's like how the French loved Jerry Lewis. John is brilliant. He really is, Now, I'm a griot, and I'm a shaman, and I'm on your Sensei Al Bob. So that means you can't even put a label on me. But John, there's a term called the idiot savant. And John's more the savant, and when you were going on about having HDAD and, people being, and I went to school to be a shrink, and I got more degrees than a thermometer, but I was just blessed that I was paid to go to school, and I didn't have to pay for going to school. And And I had a good 20, 30 years of being in universities doing research. And and I didn't do it at any one university. I never stayed in any one place, probably more than a year, because the projects I worked on, well, they'd last 6 months to 2 years. Anyway, so there is no real categorizing your Sensei Al Bob. Yeah, it was fun. That's why I did it. Yes, yeah, that's why I did it for 30 years, and I did it all over the freaking world. You know. So go back and look at my past. Like I said, I have almost 500 shows here. Be nice if I could sell these, and they're all shamanically jazzed up. Before I do this, I do ceremony. I go into state. If you go to the beginning of this one, I was in state when I started. And that's what I try to do. I try to, normally we would be sitting around the fire pit and I'd be telling stories, right? And we'd be energetically connected. So once I learned about this YouTube thing and I started playing around with it, I said, it's the 21st century. I'm going to try and do my shamanic healing through a digital platform. Well, all of these things, because, when I was a kid, they had no labels like this. And I was pretty hyperactive. And my grandma used to walk me 100 blocks through New York City every day. So I'd be exhausted by the time we got home. And we'd go to museums. And this is back in the day when the museums were free. You could go to the Guggenheim. You could go into the Met. You could go into MoMA. You could go into, there were hundreds of museums. The Museum of Natural History, the Museum of the American Indian, which was amazing. There were hundreds, and we would go up, since we lived near Harlem, we would go up into where Fordham and Columbia and all the theology schools were. And they all had great libraries and great museums. And we'd go up to the cloisters. That was amazing. And we go into St. Patrick's, and my Cardinal godfather, Cardinal Cushing, we could hang there in the underground catacombs of St. Patrick's, which they got a lot. And so, that's what I did. And so instead of taking drugs, my grandma walked me 100 blocks every day. So my body became really strong because I was a really sickly little kid. I'm trying to, Fish, I'd love to monetize. But, I have to say, John was very nice to give me a laptop, right? And I can't figure out how to use it. It doesn't have any software on it. You got to do everything through the internet. Every time I try to type in my name and pin of my Judah Wake 42 Gmail account, the Chrome says we don't recognize that. It's like I need a little somebody by my side to say, hey, this is how you do that. And a lot of you guys had set all kinds of things up and sent it to me, and I haven't been able to log on any of them. I am like your grandfather who can't quite figure it out. I mean, I figured this out, and I figured out how to get a Gmail account. I've already lost the pins, meaning for some, like my phone kind of died Friday and Saturday, right? And if I hadn't been, I went to a friend and all it was that where I was used to have internet, then it didn't. And that kind of fritzed my phone out. So when I went, to the library and, push the button, it came on, just by, oh my God, thank you, Jesus, And because if that had been it, because I have a really, you know, when my Walmart phone died, and Walmart, I had a crappy little thing. Oh, we don't even, we don't use that phone anymore. You have to buy a smartphone, and it'll cost you $100. So I went from Walmart phone over to, the hood phone, Metro. If I switched, they gave me a free phone. And this thing is pretty great. This is a smartphone. It does all the things a smartphone does, but it's not an iPhone. It's not a Samsung. It's not a this. It's not. It's like made by monkeys in Koala Land. It's like just a step above a paper cup and a string. And every time I take it to a phone guy, oh, you can't open that phone. I can't really fix it. It's really a crappy phone. You should change to our service. But no one will let. So when I changed to Metro, they took me on, and it was $10 cheaper than Walmart's, and I didn't have to pay anything for the phone. We're signing up. So that's why I'm still with this. But if this thing ever gives out the ghost, the only way you can get a hold of me is, the dude awake for 42 at Gmail. But I can't even use it on this phone. Or, send me a postcard at, P.O. Box 1165 in Virginia, 24179. I've had that P.O. Box forever, so I'll keep that up. Anyway, like I said, I live without anything. And I have no real support, so John got me that, and that was very nice that he got it for my birthday. So we got that, and I can't really figure out how to use it. And I said, John, come on, he portends to be Mr. Genius of the internet. Not really. And so he couldn't figure out it either. So it sits in a box until someone a little more adroit at the internet helps me out. And I have a friend, but I have to wait for him to show back up in town. He's the IT guy, so he'll be able to help me out. Anyway, so that's kind of it. And that's kind of where I'm at. And I'll just keep knocking these things out. And because I have a real limited warranty left, all my doctors say, you've got things really wrong with you. Like Johnny goes, well, if you only worked out like I do, you could, no, I'm not going to bring back the little bones in my leg that neuropathy have turned into mush. My pancreas is, but it's still, other parts of my hormonal system has picked up and is actually doing the things my pancreas is supposed to do. And my endocrinologist has no idea how that is working. Well, it's working because I meditate 10 times a day. I go into state and kind of tinker around with myself on a molecule basis. And, if you've been paying attention when I do the evening guided meditations, and when I take you in through breath and then bring in the, prana into your lungs and then swirl that prana up into photonic light and then energize it through the energy of your chi, through your mitochondria, and then illuminate your, imaginary mirror, and then take that light into your Akashic record, and then your superconscious mind. I do that 10 times, if not more, every day. And you can accomplish anything. And so I'm here. When I died, 6 years ago, in a plate of spaghetti, and I went to the other side. Oh God, thank you. I'm home. And they go, not quite yet. You still have more to do. And oh yes, you can quit, but you'll be thrown back into the pond, and you'll be thrown back a few notches back, so you'll be even stupider than you already are. So I said, okay, I'll go back, and so here I am. But they did say, well, this is the last time. I said, but don't I have 9 lives and this is the 6th time? He goes, no. He goes, this is it. We can see that you're back on the path. You're doing what you're supposed to. You will accomplish all we want you to do. And, and I said, can you give me a thumbnail when I'm coming? And they go, nope. I said, could be tomorrow, could be another 20 years, But that's irrelevant. So that's kind of my sell-by date, tomorrow or, 20 years from now. And if it is 20 years from now, that means that the most positive outcome will have occurred, not the most negative. And if it's tomorrow, that means that for some miraculous way, we, the cadre, have basically brought forth love's co-creation, and everyone's got on the bus and going home. And if it's a little less, then, the opposite will have occurred. My throat is getting a little dark from talking, and I'm slid down into this chair where I can't get up. Yeah. Okay. See, I've got a famous friend here. Well, maybe. Do I? Yep, there's one. There it is. Best cough drop in the universe. Fisherman's friend. Okay, gang. I think, let's see, it's 1 hour, 8 minutes, and 31 seconds. So at 1 hour, and 10 minutes, and 10 seconds, I will say, catch you later. Maybe tonight. Probably not. I'm tired. I won't be eating much for the next week, so my energy level is going to be a little lower than usual. I'm going to be in a cold place, and I probably won't have any internet, so, it's kind of, I do my best, It's all that love's co-creation ever asks of me is for me to do my best. And I do a pretty good job of it. Anyway, so what do you guys have to say? CUP ****. What's that mean, fish? Yeah, this phone's a step above a paper cup. But not much. Like I said, if this thing gives up the ghost, because I got no money to get another phone. I'm going around and, if I change, go over to a new service, will you give me a new phone? Oh, no, we don't do that anymore. We'll take, instead of costing $700, it'll cost $100. Well, I don't have, meaning I have my car insurance coming up. I have to get my car tagged this month. I have to drive 200 miles to get my car tagged. I got to get these shoes. I got to get the power turned on at the, the deep green. My bank account has, $7 in it if it goes below, and they charge me, I think, $12 every month if I don't keep $100 in there. And if I lose that account, then, and see, I have 0 credit, so I can't open up any more bank accounts. So I got to keep the ones I got, or I won't have a place for my Social Security money to go into, and blah 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 blah. And so that's the kind of stuff I kind of have to deal with every day, and the mundane crap. Normally, I mean, not normally, all the time. The universe kind of, for some, I just happen to have the $13 so I could go to. I found it in my car, so it's all good. But that's why I can't always be there for you guys, because I have limited everything, and you should try that. You should try having nothing, not have a house, not have any money in the bank, not eating any food, not knowing where your health is gonna, be coming from. You should try that. See how what it does to you. And in my case, it makes me stronger and stronger and better and better. Yeah, go vanning around the country. That sounds fun. Why don't you come over and get meat, fish? Let's go vanning. I could use a road trip because, man, every time I go to the school, I mean, it's warm. I love John. He's really been a godsend. But man, I mean, just go look at all the YouTubes that are on both our channels. That's a good example. Well, that's what I've done my whole life, learn to live off the land and go over the earth. And I'm sure glad I did my world traveling when I was younger, because, I had no problem sleeping in a ditch, you know. I know one of the great things is I have no problem sleeping. Whoops, we just went past that little time. Okay, I'll wait for the next time it hits that synchronistic moment. Do 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 do. Yep, well then you kind of get the idea. And I'm going to go back into state. I'm going to leave you guys with an energetic force.